Today I'm going to talk about an informal assessment I did with my student Walter and what information I found out by doing the assessment. I came up with an assessment to see if my student could write all of his letters of the alphabet in order and if he could write his numbers in order to 10. The assessment was done with Walter in his classroom at his table. There were other people in the room. Walter is a 13-year-old boy in the 7th grade and uses a communication device to communicate. I base this information I found on in his evaluation report. These two areas seem to be a weakness for Walter. From the evaluation report, he was not able to write past 8 and with help could do 9 and 10. He was only able to make it to J on the alphabet. I wanted to see if anything had changed since the evaluation in 2018 when the testing occurred. I made a worksheet up with 26 boxes on it to see if he could write all of his letters. I decided to give him 1 point for every one that he got right. I only assessed and counted the letters that were in the correct order. For the numbers I did the same thing. I stopped scoring when he stopped with putting his numbers into order. Walter has struggled with knowing his letters and numbers since he started school. The student was very polite and he was pretty focused on the task at hand. He complied with everything I asked of the student during the assessment. Walter set off right to work. He likes to get things done so he can do other things. This has not always worked out well for him, but on this task he did try to take his time. I feel that the student gave his best effort. The student I gave the assessment to had been having a hard time with being focused on other days and earlier in the day before I gave him the assessment. Yet when I gave him the assessment, he gave his best effort and tried his best. He did get a little distracted at one point during the assessment. I had given him the alphabet assessment first, and he completed it. Then I gave him the assessment to see how many letters he could do, and he started writing his numbers. At number 2, he stopped and saw his pencil box. Then he pointed to the box, and I gave it to him. Then he picked a orange crayon to write the rest of his numbers. After switching from the pencil to the crayon, he went back to work and finished his assessment. During the assessment, he was taking his finger and tracing out on the desk some of the motions to the letters and numbers. He had to stop and think about how to make some of the letters. Yet he stuck with it, and even though he wasn't the best letter or number, he did try to attempt to make something in the box. He would look at me sometimes if he couldn't remember how to make a letter. I could just tell him to do his best, and then he would keep going. I noticed that he had a weak pencil grip, which made it more difficult to write with. When he was writing with his pencil and switched to his crayon, his letters looked better than when he used a pencil. The score on the alphabet assessment yielded similar results to the assessment he took in 2018. He was only able to write his letters in order from A to J. He still only can write 10 of his 10 out of 26 letters in order. He only knows 38% of his letters as a 7th grader. After he repeated some of the letters, then he skipped around to the end of the alphabet. A strength for him was that most of his letters were correct and readable. He does not have the best handwriting, yet his letters were readable. A weakness for him was that he only write his letters in order to J. On his number assessment, he was able to write to 15. This was more than he could write back on an assessment in 2018. Strength for him in this assessment that he was able to produce more numbers in order than he did in 2018. He also knows the same amount of letters in order as he did when he was tested in 2018. A weakness for him was his ability to write all of his numbers legibly. Most of the letters he wrote slanted, and he could hardly do a 6, 8, and 10. When he got to 15, his 5 was not very good compared to his number 5 he did earlier in the assessment. Some of his letters were sloppy and hard to read. He does not have very good hand-eye coordination. He seemed to rush through writing some of the letters because he struggled with the letter format. The assessment gave me the exact information I needed from the assessment. I was able to see that he still does not know how to write all of the alphabet in order as a 7th grader. It also gave me the exact information about how many numbers he can write in order. I would not change anything about the alphabet assessment. It was just what I wanted. The boxes appeared big enough for him to write in, and the directions were straightforward. For the number assessment, I would include more boxes in case he was able to write more numbers in order. The results do correlate to the diagnostic summary. I found that he still does not know how to write out all of his letters in order, and I found that he has increased the numbers of numbers he knows in order. His overall writing abilities are not good for someone in 7th grade, and his number sense is well below level. Not knowing all of his letters makes it more difficult in the reading process. Walter is well below grade level and is reading as well. Walter will need to continue services and modifications to meet his needs. Thank you.